I'm going to introduce the star of the show, Marion, and Chair of Reclaim Enlightenment, John Gray, and they're going to speak to us about a new publication being launched called Is Our Education System Failing Our Children?
Well, I think the star of the show are all of you who are so passionate and interested in education, because for the last nearly 2 years I've drawn a group of people around me who've been just absolutely wonderful, and they've all contributed to this publication which we're launching today. And also, as a result of today, I've met a few other people in the congregation, audience, whatever, who have said, now where do we go from here? And so I think there's a few names of people who will help us take the project further, because I think the project is to get more integration and to get rid of the academic selection that we have here. So I want to begin by thanking you all for coming along and staying, and thanks to the sponsors, which are Coltas Olu, the Association of Educational Psychologists, and who was the other one from us? Community Relations. And then for today's, with the Ulster University and the Arts and Humanities Research have funded today, and all the speakers have just been really inspirational. I want to thank all the people who've helped bring the publication together, especially James Ward, Stephen McCracken, Francis Kane, who aren't actually, and Terry McKeown as well, whose contributions aren't noted in the publication. The publication is a result of hours and years of study and research by a group of people who have said are very, very passionate about the subject. There's essays on the development of education systems in Ireland from the time of the Enlightenment, when progressive ideas emerged, and I think that was referenced earlier today, and then throughout the 19th century and after partition in the early 20th century until the present day. The socio-economic impacts of education are examined. There's an important essay on Irish medium education, recording the demise of the language and the recent interest and growth in Gaelic schools. The Hedge School experience in history is outlined by Alan Miller, who's a writer in Ulster Scots, and it's important to include that history as well. Recent parental experience of selection and integration is described by Angeline and others as well. So after partition in the early 1924, I came across an article in the Irish News that noting how there were attempts made to remove sectarian elements and promote integration in education, but these were thwarted by all the main churches, and so we continue to have this very divided and divisive and cumbersome system in Northern Ireland. So the costs of this are explored, that is, societal costs, financial costs, environmental costs. So of course the other major division, which has been mentioned by the young people, well, the young teacher today, Shannon, is academic selection at 11, and that emerged after very dubious research in the 1940s and was largely abandoned across the UK in the years afterwards. So, as I said before, with the highest number of early school leavers and of those outside employment or education, and with poor literacy attainments, and I suppose I worked as an educational psychologist for several years, and I was at the sharp end of exclusions, with that, and the EOTAs, all those, and children with special needs. That was the biggest part of our work, and really most of our work was not done in grammar schools. It was done in secondary schools where exclusion was nearly endemic. So, having identified the difficulties with the system, we recognise it's been highly resistant to change. We've attempted to look at how things developed over the past 250 years and to make recommendations for good practice. And I'm feeling very hopeful that with having gathered together all these papers, it'll help us in an argument with, or a discussion with politicians, administrators and society, and maybe with a small group of people who want to take forward how do we achieve our aims. So thank you very much everybody, and I think the book's very good value at £5.
It's my pleasure in particular to thank Anne Marion for having masterminded the road to this publication, which is the fruit of a very successful conference that we held in November of last year. I mean, I think that the best analogy to what Anne has achieved is it's the equivalent of herding cats. Each of the contributors to this document, they're all different individuals with different ways of going about things, and you have to get them all together to produce what is a remarkable collective effort, all the more remarkable because they weren't given a sort of detailed, specific brief on what you had to do. They've written from their own experience, and there's a combination of lay people and academics, and I think that's a very fruitful combination. And the end effect is that is our education system failing our children is a profound conclusion that actually the title should have been perhaps our education system is failing our children. In particular, the two areas of selection and our divided education system are highlighted, but along with many other problems. And we also set out really, in our individual ways, a program for reform. Of course, that conference, this publication, can't be the end of the process. This conference can't be the end of the process. In a sense, we are speaking largely to those who are already converted. The problem is managing to speak to those who are psychologically deaf or so self-interested that they cannot encompass thinking about the majority of the population and the majority of the children who are left to fail. So, look, now I come to the hard sell. It's only £5. It's on sale outside at the door, as are various other Reclaim the Enlightenment publications, and indeed, it's all bargain basement stuff. You can join Reclaim the Enlightenment if you're, standard subscription, £10 a year, unwaged, £5 a year. It's a good cause. You'll have seen we've been campaigning during the last week over the ruinous assembly rooms just around the corner. That's the sort of thing we do. And I can offer you a consolation, thanks to James and his brilliant organisation. We can all retire to the church hall where I am assured that wine and canopies are available. Now, Reclaim the Enlightenment very rarely rises to that level of largesse. So do take that opportunity. Thank you all very much for coming.